My book, The Legend of Starcrash, was all done from sessions with one young woman. She was a student at the college, and she was specializing in music. She was really what you would call an organist, but it was like a concert organist. She loved classical music, and that's what she was focusing on. But when we did the sessions, she goes back to way, way back in time. And the Legend of Starcrash tells the story of a spacecraft that came from another planet. There were 5 of them, and they were exiled from the other planet, and they were supposed to go through space and set up a colony on another planet. And as they went through our solar system, this one spacecraft began to have trouble, and it had problems with it, and it knew it wasn't going to be able to continue the journey. At first, it thought it wanted to land on the moon to make repairs. It was glad later they didn't do it, but they had never seen a satellite like the moon that was so large to be circling a planet, so they thought it was a small planet. Instead, they crashed in the Canadian-Alaska region. The other ones in the group soon found they couldn't help them, so they continued on their own journey to where they were headed. But the people who crashed had to learn how to survive. And it's an amazing story because they had spent years and years on board the ship, and it was like a generational ship. They'd been born and raised on that ship. They were not used to atmosphere. They were not used to the sun. The radiation of the sun was very difficult for them. It created different diseases in the body. They had to live on board the remains of the spaceship to stay out of the strong sun. When they began to reproduce, the babies were born deformed or dead because they couldn't take the radiation. That was when they had to make a decision. In order to survive, they were going to have to interbreed. Well, this is before the coming of the Eskimos, before the Indian races, way back in time. The only ones that were there in the valley in the Alaska-Canadian region where they crashed were like Aborigines, long before the coming of the Eskimo. So they had to make a decision. In order to survive, they had to interbreed with the natives in that area. And when they did, this really produced the beginning of the Indian races on the American continent. And when I have gone and spoke in Alaska and told them this story, the Eskimos there all told me this is a part of our legends of the story of our beginning. Because the whole story is told by many years later when they had a village and there were people living in the village, and the man was a hunter who was telling of the legends that were told around the campfire at night of where they came from, how they ended up there. They thought they were the only people in the world. They had never seen any other people. And it carries it through until eventually the coming of the Eskimos, and they found there were other people in the world. But it is the story of the beginnings of the Indian races and how it then spread all over the United States and how they began. And it all started with a spacecraft that crashed thousands of years ago in that area. And it is still carried in the legends of the Eskimos.